last week. Hello, everyone. We're just going to give it a minute or so people can get logged in. Thanks so much for joining us today. All right, I think we can go ahead and get started. Hello, and welcome to Technology Tuesdays. My name is Lydia Nimke, and I am very excited to bring you today's presentation on making connections, HDMI, Airplay, and casting. Of course, you are all muted and have your cameras turned off by default, but please do not let that stop you from asking any questions you may have about today's presentation in the Q&A box down below. With us today in the background, as always, we have Beth Gabriel.
Hi everyone, welcome back to Tech Tuesdays. As always, feel free to type your questions into the Q&A box and I will read them out loud for you as we go along. Have a great presentation, Lydia.
Thanks, Beth. All right, so let's jump in and talk about some of the main concepts we'll be covering today. First up, we'll discuss why you may want to make a connection, what that does for you. And then we'll break the discussion down further into wired connections and wireless connections. And then we'll, of course, take special time to make distinctions between things like Airplay and casting and screen sharing and screen mirroring, all distinct things, all with their own purposes. Modern connection type technology is really expansive and extensive, so I'm going to try and give you a little bit of information about the multiple different ways you can go about connecting your devices. Of course, today's presentation will be recorded. I'm sure the recording is going on right now, so there's no need to take any extensive notes. You'll all receive a recording and a follow-up email from me later on this week. All right. So why are we talking about making connections today? Well, there's a lot of reasons why you might want to make a connection, but it really comes down to two things. We make connections between our devices to increase their functionality, so to make them do more stuff for us, and to increase access to them. By increasing a device's functionality, we enable them to be able to do more things, right? A computer changes from something that's just a stagnant repository of information and drives and all of this stuff to something, once you attach a monitor to it, once you make that connection, that you can watch movies on and that you can type your next novel on. A phone changes from something that just makes calls and send texts and uses the internet to somewhere you can stream movies to your TV from, or play music throughout your home. Connections also allow us to increase access in the sense that we can back up important data to multiple devices for easy transitions when we get a new phone or computer, and we can share what's on our device with others around us in the room and around us, in the world. So we're going to start today by talking about wired connections. And wired connections have been around for as long as there have been wires, even predating computers, electrical connections are a thing. But they've definitely been used to increase the functionality of technology as far as computers have been concerned for as long as computers have pretty much existed. Whenever you attach your computer to a monitor or a keyboard or to a webcam, you are increasing its functionality through that connection. So in this section, we're going to chat a little bit more about the different types of wired connections you can make between devices. An important thing to note is that wired connections have a corresponding port on your device. So there's two ends to the cable, and they both have to match the ports that they're going to go into. If only one end fits, you're kind of out of luck. So there's specific cords for a wide variety of intended purposes, and we'll talk about some of those as we go forward. So here are some common connectors that are in use today. And on this slide, there are a lot of different iterations of the USB cord or cable or connector. I will probably use all of those words interchangeably. So on the top left here, we have probably one of the most common, which is the USB type A. It looks more or less like this. This is your flash drives, a lot of chargers as they go into the wall adapter, the part that actually plugs into the wall. They have a USB type A connection. USB type B connections are for a lot of video cameras may have them, printers, microphones, so those peripherals. USB-C connections are pretty new, and they're usually power adapter based or for charging specific devices. USB micro B super speed is seen more often on specialized devices, special digital cameras, things of that nature. And the lightning cable is pretty much exclusively used to charge iPhone devices. And the USB, both of these, the USB mini and the USB micro, are used to charge a lot of other small devices, including Android phones and tablets, and a lot of other wireless devices as well. Now, connecting your phone to your computer, which you can do most often and most easily with the cord that charges your phone, allows you to increase your functionality because you're able to back up your phone, right? We were talking about backing up your phone's data, contacts, music onto your computer by making that connection. So in my case, I have a lightning cable that looks like this on one end and looks like this on the other. So I plug this end into my phone and this end into my computer, and I can literally see a file list of everything that's on my phone, all the pictures that are on my phone. I can upload and download music to my phone as well. So that is a good way to kind of troubleshoot a common issue I see in the library helping patrons. And it used to happen to me all the time, is when you run out of storage on your device, every time you try and download a new app or take a picture, it prompts you to delete some of the images first. One simple way to get around that is by connecting to your computer. It should be your computer in this instance, not a library computer or a friend's computer or something like that. And downloading the pictures from your device before deleting them off of your device. So they're not on your device anymore, they're on the computer. If you don't have a personal computer, say, you can download them onto the library's computer, but then you're going to want to download them onto a flash drive or upload them to the cloud, whatever is more comfortable for you, so that you have a storage solution that is not fully dependent on the amount of storage you have available on your phone. Now, taking a look at some older connectors to give you a more historical perspective. By older, I don't mean like the 70s or 80s. I mean like the early thousands. I have used most of these cords, all of these cords, in fact, throughout my life to do a wide variety of things. So this image here is from the dad manual, and I thought it was very cute. And it has pretty good illustrations of all the cords. So we're looking at here, and we're just going to go from left to right, 1 to 9. We're looking at another type of USB cord. And number 2 and 3 are both cords that we used to use to connect our mice and keyboards to our computer. We don't use them anymore. They're now pretty defunct. But those used to be pretty common on almost every single desktop computer. You'd have a green cord that went into a green port that you'd plug in your mouse with. 4, 5, and 6 are audio-visual cords. And I have hooked up so many DVD players in my life, and I still can't tell you which color is for audio and which color is for visual. And I don't think I know anyone else who can either. It was all trial and error. If it doesn't sound right, you unplug 2 cords and try again. And then they started making them color coordinated, so that helped a lot, in my case at least. And 7 and 8 are older computer and monitor connections. VGA cables, DVI cables all kind of have this pronged approach up here where the corresponding port actually fits exactly inside the prongs at the top here, and you screw them in on the side to make sure they don't come loose. And then over here is another example of a USB, which has taken the place of 2 and 3 almost entirely. And what has taken the place of 4 through 8 pretty much entirely is the HDMI, or high definition media interface cable. And they are the digital replacements for the VGA cable and the DVI cable. So unlike VGA, which stands for Video Graphics Array, the HDMI carries a digital signal of 1s and 0s to transmit higher quality images faster than its predecessor. And unlike the DVI, which transmits just video information, the HDMI transmits video as well as audio. So instead of those 3 cords we had on that previous slide, you just have the 1 cord that does all of the things. There's no need to futz around and have this trial and error process. It's 1 cord, and it pretty much solves all of your solutions, solves all of your problems. HDMI is really a one-stop shop and one of the easiest ways to make connections between your computer or TV screen. Most HDMI cords can even handle up to 8K and even 10K definition. And since most of today's TVs, today's state-of-the-art TVs even, are only around 4K, it will most likely remain a standard AV cord. And by AV, I mean audio-visual, for a while. So different things you can connect with HDMI. pretty much anything that needs to transmit audio and video that you've bought relatively recently has an HDMI port and can be connected. So some common examples are TVs, video projectors, and PC monitors, cable boxes and DVRs, home theater receivers, DVD, Blu-ray, and HD players, game consoles, computers and laptops, of course, like we talked about last week, and cutting the cord. A laptop connected to your TV with an HDMI cable is one of the easiest ways to kind of increase the functionality of your TV and of your laptop even. And then media streamers and digital cameras and camcorders. Now I have an example connection for you for HDMI. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen momentarily. And in my hand, I have a Nintendo Switch. Well, the charge base for it. To kind of show you all how simple it is to connect something with an HDMI cord. In my hand, I have the HDMI cord, and it is the same on both sides. Some cords you'll come across have an HDMI on one side and an older connection on the other side. So you just make sure that you have the right cord for your right circumstance. On the back here, you'll be able to see it says HDMI out at the bottom, and that is something that you'll see pretty common, and they are usually labeled, but not always. And sometimes if it's not, you'll just have to look on the side. If I can show you guys, that is more or less what every single HDMI port is going to look like, this bottom one right here. So really simple to go ahead and plug that in there. And when I plug this end into my television and make sure I'm on the right input, right, I have to change to the HDMI input that this is connected to, which should be labeled on your TV as well. Whether it's HDMI 1, 2, 3, HDMI side, it depends. You'll change to that input, and then you'll be able to see what the Nintendo Switch is on. Of course, there's no power adapter plugged into this. Power adapter for this device happens to be a USB-C. Plug that in, plug the power adapter into the wall, and we're ready to go. And I am transmitting the audio and visual from this device very simply, and I've just set up a full gaming console without much work on my part, I'd say. Setting up a GameCube in 2002 was a lot more difficult than that, I promise you. We've come a long way. So back into the presentation here. To move on to talking about wired connections, wireless connections. There is a lot you can do nowadays without needing that additional wire even, especially if you're utilizing something like your mobile device, a smartphone or tablet to make this connection. Now, one thing I do want to talk about screen sharing as a form of making a connection. And screen sharing is what I'm doing right now. You're seeing my PowerPoint that's up on my desktop screen. But screen sharing is just when you share your exact desktop, laptop, phone, or tablet screen, or an application window of the screen on displays in other locations. You generally share a window of activity with your audience. For example, you might just want to share your Chrome browser. This is useful when you want to share content with other individuals who are not in the same geographic location. It's also great for joining from different networks. And as you can imagine, this has been pretty important in the past few years, being able to have that collaboration and have people see what you're working on. One of the important parts of screen sharing is that it allows you to share your content with others while you're on a video call, say, meaning they can follow the content on the screen as you're talking. So some benefits of screen sharing. Well, screen sharing is not restricted by geographic location. As I mentioned, you don't need to be in the same room as your audience to share your screen. There is the ability for real-time collaboration to take place. I am in a lot of meetings and I use screen sharing pretty frequently so that everyone can see what we're working on together and everyone can have a, say in what gets submitted or turned in for a project. And screen sharing gives you a form of privacy that some of the other options aren't necessarily going to give you. You can choose a window of activity to share with your audience and not share the rest of your apps that you have open, the rest of your notifications. I usually share my entire desktop of my not main screen with you all, because I may jump into Chrome for a demonstration. I may jump into, a different application to respond to a question. But if I wasn't doing all of that, if I was leading a different program, I would probably just share the PowerPoint presentation itself and nothing else. That way, if I had a text message notification pop up or an email got sent and a notification banner came on along the bottom of my screen, you all wouldn't be able to see that. So it's a great way to keep private things private. A limitation of screen sharing is that it does have a relatively limited accessibility. Screen sharing really depends on your audience having the same software as you to support screen sharing. So what we're doing today, we're all either in the Zoom application itself or we're on Zoom's website. So we're using the Zoom software to facilitate this screen sharing interaction. If we're on a video call on Facebook Messenger or FaceTime, we still have to use their software to be able to see each other's screens. So that is kind of a limitation in that respect. Now, before we move on, I have a little note about Wi-Fi because Wi-Fi itself is a wireless connection. To start making other types of wireless connections, you really do need to be connected to the wireless internet in your home. All of the devices you want to connect to and connect with generally need to be on the same network. Wi-Fi is a wireless technology itself that primarily is used to connect your device to the internet. And to use Wi-Fi, of course, you'll probably have to enter your Wi-Fi password. And if you don't have a Wi-Fi password, you should make a Wi-Fi password. So you can connect to your local area network via router, which uses radio frequencies to transmit information to your devices. Pretty much, Wi-Fi allows you to surf the web without connecting your device to a phone line or to a cable outlet, which are more traditional wired methods of connecting to the internet. These days, you'll find Wi-Fi receivers are in most desktops, laptops, smartphones, tablets, smart TVs, even printers, digital cameras, digital audio players, and smart home devices. So they are all over the place. Generally, if you see the Wi-Fi symbol on a device, it means that the device can connect to the internet wirelessly. And if you see the symbol that looks like this, posted in restaurants or cafes or in the airport, that means they provide internet access, wireless internet access for your devices. Besides connecting to the internet, you can also use Wi-Fi to connect your devices within the same network. For example, you can connect two computers on the same network to transfer files between them wirelessly. All right, so now that we got all of our devices on the same network, we can talk a little bit more about the rest of the connections. So, screen mirroring. Similar to screen sharing, screen mirroring is when you duplicate your exact desktop, laptop, phone, what have you, and all of the movements on another display in the same room. You want to think about a mirror. Your activity is going to be reflected directly on the device you're sharing with. And you'll need a display, TV, projector, or monitor that can receive content wirelessly to do this. That's why we have to be connected to the Wi-Fi, and it all kind of goes together. So as you can see here in this image, I have my iPad down here, right? And the exact same screen is mirrored on my TV in the background. And it's the exact same screen almost to a fault because the aspect ratio of my iPad is more square than the aspect ratio of my TV. So there's black bars on either side because it's literally an exact representation of what's going on the mirrored device. Screen mirroring is useful for in-person collaboration sessions where you want to show everyone in the room your exact activity or movements on your device. So the presenter will be able to display content from a more accessible device, like their phone or their laptop or their tablet, and present it to a large screen for the whole room to see. So say you are at a gathering and you want to show some of your family members how to find and register for library programs at the Milwaukee Public Library. As a presenter in this respect, you can mirror your screen onto the TV in the family room and show them how to go to mpl.org/calendar and look at our calendar of events and find a program they're interested in and how to register for it if it's virtual or in person, what have you, and save that information to their calendar. And you can show them all of this like you're, doing your own Tech Tuesdays from the family room, provided that your device and the device you're connecting with are both on the same Wi-Fi network. How cool is that? These are generally what the screen mirroring icons will look like, and they're in slightly different places depending on which device you're on. But if you see either of those on your phone, go ahead and give them a tap and see what options are available to you. If you're on the Wi-Fi at home, you might already have the ability to connect with your television set. So it's worth checking them out. Nothing bad will happen, I promise. Go ahead and explore around by clicking on some apps like this or some icons that look like that. Now, screen mirroring, as I mentioned, is very accessible. Since it's really for when you're in the room with other people, there's no additional software to download. So that removes one of the main barriers to access with screen sharing. If you all were in my living room with me when I was sharing or mirroring my screen, I could show you as many things as I wanted to. It's really flexible in that you can turn any capable TV, display, projector, monitor, what have you, into an exact representation of a smaller device. Again, it still offers you the same ability to do that real-time collaboration. And it is really usable for you as the person sharing an image of your screen, in that you can use the applications that you're already familiar with on your device. And there is full support for 99% of apps. Whatever you can perform on your device, you can perform on the mirrored screen. So that is very nice and very helpful. You don't have to learn a whole new software in order to, share out this information with the people in the room with you. Some limitations I will mention are really the flip side of the benefits, right? Everything that is on your screen can be seen, and there's no ability to share just one window or a specific application. So if, all of a sudden a text pops up um, that says, "Oh my God, isn't so and so so annoying?" and so sitting, behind you, they're gonna see that because everything that's on your screen when you're screen mirroring is viewable. So you do lose privacy on that end. And then not all devices are capable of screen mirroring. Lately, most of the devices coming out have the ability built in, but I have a smart TV that I bought in like 2014 maybe, and that it doesn't have the ability to mirror screen built right in, which is, a little bothersome, but at the same rate, it's okay with me. Um, there are third-party apps you can download to kind of enable that for you, but then that takes away from the simplicity, the accessibility, and the flexibility we've already talked about. So what about Airplay? Airplay is a proprietary wireless communication technology that's been developed by Apple that is specifically for Apple devices and allows kind of a seamless streaming between devices of audio, video, and device screens and photos. Apple has licensed the Airplay technology to manufacturers that build products compatible with Apple's devices. So the TV that's in some of my images in today's presentation is an LG TV, but it can do the screen mirroring through Airplay because they have, licensed that technology to be able to talk to Apple devices through Airplay. Airplay is pretty much just screen mirroring with a fancy name. It's more or less the exact same thing. But in addition to sharing what's on your screen, Airplay also allows you to share music and share photo slideshows and things like that. And now we'll talk briefly about screencasting. So screencasting allows you to play music, videos, and some other content from your mobile devices to other devices. It's different from mirroring in that you can't see the content on your device as it casts. So this is not going to be a good option for, our previous example if you want to show folks how to find a certain video or how to access certain content. Not a great option because it's only viewable on the device you're casting to. You all may be familiar with Chromecast from our Cutting the Cord presentation, if nothing else. That is a device plugged into the back of a television or display and picks up signals from certain apps and allows you to cast your content. Once your content is casting, you can control it from the TV itself. So as you see in the image to the left here, I am playing a YouTube video on the television in the background, and the screen of my iPad, which is kind of cut off, but is a completely different screen, although it is still transmitting the video to play on the television. Our screencasting icon is going to be in the individual apps themselves instead of being on the device itself, say. It's going to be in the individual apps, and I'll zoom in a little for you. It looks like that on YouTube, and it generally looks like this more or less on devices that are capable of screencasting. Screencasting is really useful for when you want to play a video or audio on a large display or monitor, TV, or what have you. For example, if you are instructing a class and want to play a related video clip from YouTube on the screen at the front of the room, you can cast that YouTube video to the TV, and then you can continue to use your device while that video clip is casting. So some of the benefits of screencasting are your ability to use high quality video streams, which is great for playing, videos on a larger display. It's going to be a high quality video. And then you also have the ability to multitask, right? So you can continue to use your personal device while you're casting. So you can respond to text messages or send off emails instead of just kind of being beholden to what is showing up on your phone showing up on the screen. It's also one of the more battery and Wi-Fi friendly options. Casting is less demanding overall on your device's battery and the Wi-Fi consumption. Now, some limitations, because there's always two sides to every story. There is limited support for screencasting. Although there are plenty of devices and apps that support casting, there's still a lot that don't, and only a few media formats are supported. So those big name streaming services that we went over in Cutting the Cord, your Netflix, your Amazon Prime Video, Hulu, YouTube, those definitely allow casting. But again, as you get more niche, it's a less likelihood that you're going to be able to cast that video. And then as far as usability is concerned, you're pretty limited in what media formats you can share through casting. It's mainly for videos and sounds. So that kind of narrows the functions more than screen mirroring or screen sharing. And then finally, it's not as interactive. You can't share device activity in real time or add in your notes and annotations to give context to the material. You can normally pause and play, and maybe skip to the next track if you're playing an album, or go to the next YouTube video in a playlist. But beyond that, you don't really have any control to change what's being displayed on the screen. So just to kind of go over the differences between those three again. Screencasting is different than screen mirroring because when you're casting, you're not displaying your entire device screen and activity. This is why you can still use your phone when you're casting a YouTube video to a TV. When mirroring, you're sharing your real-time device activity. So I have these images right next to each other for comparison's sake. This is my device and TV casting. on the left side here, and this is my device and TV when I'm screen mirroring. So I can be doing anything on this iPad while this YouTube video is casting. When I'm screen mirroring, everything I'm doing is on the TV. When you're casting, the content is not being played from your device. The TV or whatever you're casting to receives your online content request and then plays it. Whereas screen mirroring involves sending your screen activity to the TV. And screen sharing is different from screen mirroring. Well, they're both really similar, to be perfectly honest. But screen mirroring is used to share content from your device to another device in the same room. So it doesn't matter what device or what network you're using, you're sharing the content on devices in the same room. Whereas screen sharing, again, what I'm doing right now, is used to share content remotely. You all are seeing this slide. So what's the difference on your devices and wherever you're at right now? And that is because we all are using Zoom to do it, because it requires all of our participants to have the same software or compatible hardware. All of these have their benefits and drawbacks, but there's a slightly different technology and slightly different purposes that drive each process. So whatever you're doing, making sure you use the right one for the right purpose is going to be important. They all do have a pretty similar function though, and it is pretty similar to using an HDMI cable. That is, we are sharing audio and visual content from one device to another. Okay, that's what I have for you all today. Are there any questions?
Sorry about that. There is one from Gail who wanted a little bit more information about setting up Wi-Fi.
Oh, that's a good question, Gail. I have not been involved in setting up any Wi-Fi networks, if I'm being perfectly honest. I don't know what all happens with them. I know you need a modem and a router, and sometimes they are in the same device, but I would feel a little silly if I gave any more information because I'm not exactly sure. Thank you for the question though, Gail. I can send you up some links to some reputable sources and maybe they can answer your question. And I'll send those out in the follow-up to everyone in case anyone's interested.
Awesome. And that looks like about it for questions from the audience.
All right, cool beans. Well, we've got one more. Okay. So I'd like to thank you all for joining us today. Next week, we'll go over some fun apps and tools to enhance your cooking, technology tools for cooking. And if you are interested in any other fun virtual programs from the Milwaukee Public Library, I'd highly encourage you to visit mpl.org/calendar to see what we're up to. We're working on a lot of fun things over there. So I'd highly encourage that. Once again, thank you all for joining us today and have a great rest of your week. Bye.
Awesome. Bye, Lydia. Have a good week, everyone.
Bye.